So, I was just thinking the other day about how many years I spent in Australia dealing with job network providers in this country. Now, we go back to 2006. I'm 20 going on 21 at the time. Because I am leaving college and TAFE, because I don't want to do it anymore, I'm no longer on Youth Allowance, but I become on part of Newstart Allowance. So this means, alright, if you're not studying enough, you have to go out and look for work. You can apply for 10 jobs a fortnight. So, that's what I did. Every 2 weeks, 10 jobs a fortnight, go in there, ask people for work, write it down in a diary, show it to Centrelink, get your payment, that's how it's done. But on the other side, right, there is a provider which is run by the Australian government, it's funded by the Australian government, and their job is basically to get you into work. They want you working, and they want you to stop living off the taxpayer. But the thing is, they do jack shit. But the government makes you go to these centres, because if you do not turn up, you will lose your payment as punishment. So you go in there, you go into a room full of idiots. You know how to apply for a job. You know what to do. But they just give you resources that you could have been using back at home. I mean, yeah, they make you print out your resume. They make you attend sessions where people discuss how you're going to blitz the interview or how you're going to apply for this job when you already know in your damn head. So what you gotta do is basically, you gotta like brush aside these people and say, look, can you try to help me get a job? I mean, you gotta think, you think they are the ones who are supposed to help me get a job, but they don't. I mean, just if they really cared about you getting a job, they basically like give you a job at random saying, alright, you're gonna start like sweeping up rubbish. You're gonna start doing it. Like, there it is, go apply for it, I'm going to give you a good reference. And I'm going to get your foot in the door and you're going to stop living off the taxpayer. But they don't. If you do not succeed in getting a job, you have to do work for the dole, even if you're doing even if you're working a little bit a week. So basically, you work for the dole, meaning you go out and do community service, like you work for a homeless shelter or you work in a cafeteria. You're working with criminals who have done horrible things and are doing this as like punishment. But you're a good person if you are, and you're doing this so you can still get your dole payment. I was with Mission Australia, the one in Castle Hill, and they did nothing for me. Years down the track, they were run by a bunch of jackasses, especially this Indian woman called Janet. And he would basically smirk at me and tell me how I was failing at like living in the UK and I shouldn't be living there. Well, I thought, well, Janet, why don't you get off your freaking fat ass and get me a job? So then I got a job as a in a Mexican restaurant. You know, gym and skills are main. But then 2 years down the track, I quit. And then 3 years down the track, I'm back on the dole. I'm back attending these centres. And these centres are called Thru People Solutions, but basically they're made for people with disabilities, hidden or like physical, and they're supposed to help people who are disabled get into work. Alright? These people never help me out. They only send me to one interview, I dress up nicely, I dress up clean, I spick and span, but then there's this scumbag who is ugly and not dressed up properly, and they give him the job all because he's been doing telephone service. So I try to spaz at them. And then I apply for Nova employment because they're the same type of idiots out there who are supposed to help the disabled get into work and stop living off the state taxpayer. Nova employment doesn't help me because I'm with this shitty company, Thru People Solutions. But then I say, look, Thru People Solutions are being a bunch of pricks, they're not helping me do anything. And then, so I had to go with another company, Wise Employment. And I'm working, I get a job on my own, and I'm working every week. But I still have to go to Wise Employment because it's part of my obligations as a person on Newstart Allowance. You got to go to these offices. If you don't turn up without a good reason, like you've been working or you're sick, they're gonna like penalize you. So wise employment were just a bunch of assholes. They sent me to a job at Dick Smith's and they couldn't get me in the door. And then they sent me like for a job as a waiter at this Italian place in Parramatta, and the people there wouldn't give me a chance, even though I was working in a shithole restaurant as a dishwasher. And then it gets a bit invasive how they're calling you up every few weeks, asking you how many hours you're doing. You got to bring in pay slips. You got to like prove to people like what you're working. And when you're already telling the government every 2 weeks, this is how many hours I do. This is how much money I earn before tax. This is my job. Basically, you do that so you don't like get overpaid, have to pay money back. And then so I get a job, but then I am on a 0-hour contract for my last 3 years in Australia. In my last 2 years in Australia, I go to the same office of Mission Australia, the same idiots back in 2006 who did nothing for me. And then I leave Australia for a few months, I come back, I live in Melbourne, and I move in to a house. And then I'm still on Newstart Allowance, because I'm allowed to, I'm an Australian citizen. And they send me to this office, and this Asian woman basically criticizes for the way my resume is structured, and she wants me picking up garbage and leaves when I've already been away and I'm not eligible for to be doing work for the dog because I'm already working. So I go see a new provider in Flemington. But at the time of my life, I'm really ill after getting the flu, and this woman rings me up, and she's trying to offer me a job at Crown City Casino, who had basically thrown homophobic abuse at me despite the fact I'm not gay. And I just hung up on her, and then so I'm really sick with the flu, and I've been in hospital. I've got a letter, and then basically I go into her office, and she just scolds me for hanging up on her, and scolds me for just not having proof about my illness. So I did the thinkable. I left Melbourne. I basically said, I'm gonna get back to Sydney. I'm gonna go live with my mom for a few weeks. I'm gonna go do jack shit until I go to Russia. So then, basically, the people in Melbourne are like, oh Martin, why aren't you attending? And I'm like, I don't live in Melbourne anymore, I live in Sydney. So they send me to a new office. But before I make my first appointment, I fly to Russia, via Malaysia and Hong Kong, and I haven't came back. But then, I come back to the United Kingdom, and I get all the benefits. And basically, the dole office and the job network providers are combined into one building. Just one person you have to deal with in the United Kingdom on the tax. I only spent 2 months of my British life on welfare, and then I got my job, and I haven't looked back since. So always remember, you are the one out there who needs to go look for a job. It's only you can get the job. Nobody else can help you get a job. I mean, you might know some people, you might have friends who work in good companies, and they might get you in the back door. But you have to be the one who writes the forms, puts the resume in, speaks well, attends the interview on time, nicely dressed. And if they're not going to hire you, you have every right to be pissed and ballistic. I'm Overland Metalhead, over and out.